4 winters past, the calm veneer of the coastal isles was torn asunder. Beneath silver tides and moonlit sails an old wound festered, unseen by complacent eyes. The truce, never more than a veil stretched thin over ancient hostilities, was finally riven when Abyssal Reaver warbands, born of shadow and salt, descended upon southern Meridia in a maelstrom of flame and iron. From the obsidian shoals of Blacktide Rook to the pearl-lined docks of Cindermoor, Reaver longships came like phantoms, swift and merciless. Their banners, woven with dread sigils and the bones of drowned captains, heralded a new epoch of terror. Fortress after fortress fell, coastal strongholds once thought impregnable now reduced to charred husks, adrift in ruin. What had long simmered in whispered fears and closed-door councils now erupted into open war. The fragility of Meridia's maritime dominion was laid bare. The illusion of distance, an unspoken hope that the Reavers would remain confined to their savage isles, shattered like driftwood upon the rising tide. No accord had ever tempered their ferocity. The Meridian Council, distracted by the spectre of the Crimson Corsairs, had simply turned a blind eye. But the Reavers, no longer content to prey upon the misfortune, surged northward with cruel purpose. Beneath the lullaby of the waves, war had waited, coiled like a sea serpent in the deeps, no longer sleeping but stirring, hungering for the moment to strike. When Meridia bled and its bastions flared like dying stars along the southern horizon, Commander Aldrich Thorne, master of the Meridian Armada and Lord of the Isles, faced a truth even his storied lineage could not ignore. His fleets were stretched thin, his enemies twofold, and his realm ripe for division. Yet the commander did not sail blindly into despair. He invoked the Cjordriath, that ancient law of parley sacred to those who rule the waves without crown. Pirates. And though he bore no flag of the guild, nor knew the way through the mists that shield it, his emissaries were sent with bold terms and masked desperation. And in the most unlikely turn of events, Hallowtide answered, emerging from its shroud of myth, to heed the ancient call. Hidden from the eyes of kings and cartographers alike, Hallowtide is a city whispered more than spoken of, a sanctuary of rogues, a citadel of salt-born sovereigns, and the hallowed seat of the Pirate Guild. Only those marked by the sea's oldest pacts can find it, and fewer still may walk its spiral alleys and live. There, in the echoing depths of its storm-sheltered caverns, a conclave of captains convened, not at the behest of the Meridian throne, but at the silent summons of one greater still. The Unbound. No name, no face. Only the title and the will behind it. A being said to have walked with the sea itself, who binds the fractious pirate lords into a single storm when it suits the tide. Under their unseen guidance, 4 of the 5 sea lords pledged steel and sail to the fight against the Reavers. Ronmar Blackshaw, the Iron Watch of the Meridian North, Lysara Ferrin, swift scourge of the Tempest Sea, Elan Marwood, the gilded whisper of Eldoria, and Caspian Vael, whose silence had grown into legend and whose acceptance marked the pact's seal. Greymoor, Warden of the North, ever defiant, refused, and vanished into the ice-bound winds. The world learned of the alliance not in proclamations but in cannon fire. Reaver fleets met organized resistance where none had stood before. Convoys, once easy prey, now sailed under pirate escort, and whispers grew louder that the tide had turned, not by Thorne's command, but by the hand of one who rules from shadows, beneath the waves. Thus was born the most perilous alliance Meridia had ever known, an accord forged not in trust, but necessity, and sealed in the salt-wrought halls of Hallowtide. At the edge of every storm stands a figure, not shaped by the winds, but commanding them. Such was Captain Caspian Vael, once a rogue of the southern shoals, now a privateer cast in the mantle of legend. Though born of the lawless tide, Caspian emerged as the soul of the alliance, a tactician not of doctrine, but of daring, a commander whose presence could calm mutiny or rouse fleets to righteous fury. It was his voice that lent cohesion to chaos, and his vision that bound rivermen and rogue captains to a common course. And at his side sailed Captain Elon Marwood, the silver-masked strategist of Eldoria, whose sleek vessels carved the sea like wind through silk. Together, they bore the brunt of the early war when the lines between hope and ruin were etched in salt and flame. Their vanguard struck not with overwhelming force, but with precision. In daring counter-offensives, Caspian's fleet drove deep into Reaver-claimed waters, severing their momentum like a harpoon through kelp. His crowning triumph, the liberation of Cindermoor docks, Meridia's central keystone and gateway to all seas, was hard won, wreathed in smoke and sacrifice. Though the tide did not always favor him and setbacks proved inevitable, Caspian held the line. He was no mere sword for hire, but a rising star among a sky of shadows. Where others warred for plunder, Caspian fought for something rarer still, a future beyond piracy, a place in the order of the realm not earned by conquest but by legacy. From the swirling chaos of ambition, a new pattern began to emerge. Where once the pirate guild had been a tempest of rival captains and clashing flags, now a rare harmony echoed across the sea, a rhythm not born of law, but of necessity and shared blood. It was Captain Ronmar Blackshaw, that iron sentinel of the north, who took the first helm of order. His fleets, once feared for raiding Meridian vessels, now patrolled the trade lanes with ruthless efficiency. Pirates became wardens, and commerce began to breathe again beneath their watchful sails. From the sun-scorched channels of the south, coalition squadrons engaged Reaver flotillas in the open sea, fighting not as scattered opportunists, but as a united armada. Convoys long left to fate now moved under protection, escorted by ships that had once preyed upon them. Their flags still bore the emblems of outlaws, yet now flew in defense of order. This strange concord, storm-forged and shadow-bound, marked the birth of a new order of the waves, a maritime covenant drawn not in treaties, but in shared fire and steel. Commander Aldrich Thorne, ever the architect of sea and state, saw the utility in the storm. While his grand armada clashed with the corsairs of the Crimson Tide in the bloodied north, he lent quiet aid to the pirate fleets. Naval advisors whispered tactics in candlelit war rooms. Siege engineers fortified pirate-held outposts along newly reclaimed coasts. Even enchanted weaponry, once reserved for the Armada's elite, now found its way into the hands of privateer captains. Thus did Meridia extend its reach without stretching its command, a strategy cloaked in diplomacy, yet built on risk. For in empowering the outlaws of the deep, the realm wagered its future on a pact with wolves. Whether this alliance would endure or devour itself, none could yet say. But in that hour, amid fire and tide, Meridia and the Pirate Guild sailed as one. From the verdant highlands and crystalline ports of Eldoria, the realm of sages and songwrites, came word of support, measured, eloquent, and shrewd. They did not march with banners nor rally with horns, but their presence was felt all the same, like moonlight upon still water. Magical provisions were sent upon gilded barges, each crate sealed with sigils older than the Meridian tongue. Enchanted artillery, wrought in the forges of river-bound mages, found its way to key bastions along the southern coast, where it turned the tide in battles that steel alone could not win. Rare alchemical compounds and naval supplies, precise and potent, flowed into the war effort like lifeblood. Yet no act of Eldoria is ever without design. Though their aid was welcomed, indeed vital, it was not given freely. The price came not always in coin, but in influence, trade concessions, arcane favors, whispers of deeper accords. Their emissaries walked the halls of the Meridian Council with smiles veiled in silk, their words measured like the tolling of crystal chimes. Thus, Eldoria stood as both benefactor and observer, offering the balm of magic while charting the cost in silence. An ally, yes, but ever at a distance and ever watching. 4 years have passed since the first stronghold fell to fire and shadow. The southern coast, once scarred and sundered, now bears the marks of slow restoration, docks rebuilt, beacons relit, and cities once lost reclaimed in grit and blood, yet the war is not won. In the southeast, where the reefs whisper with the voices of the drowned and the winds carry the stench of unburied wrath, the Abyssal Reavers hold fast. Their haunted bastions rise like broken teeth from the waves, defiant against the sea's cleansing breath. No alliance has pierced their heart. No map marks the path to their true lair. And so the horizon remains dark. The Pirate Guild, forged now in more than gold and gain, stands not as plunderers, but as a people remade. They are bound by salt and steel, by oaths sworn in storm and battle. Yet this unity, hard-earned and fragile, trembles on the edge of fate. Will they rise as the unlikely saviors of Meridia, turning legacy from infamy to honor, or will they be extinguished by the Reavers, devoured like driftwood in a blood tide that hungers still? The wind has shifted, the hour draws near, and the sea, ever watching, holds its breath.